Okay, so this is just a little, I don't know if it's a tutorial, something like a tutorial for your watercolors. So the things to have handy are a paper towel, always have that. I like to have a container of water, even though you have a water pen. This is a little different than the one that came with your kit, but it's sort of the same thing. And the first thing I do, these watercolors are student grade, and they're a little tough, hard, and a little opaque. So I always start by putting a drop, you can just squeeze your water brush. You can see that water just drop. A drop on all of these to just soften them up. Even if there's a color I'm pretty sure I'm not going to use, I'll still put a drop on it because it's hard to tell once you get going. So then you have your little watercolor, this little water brush. I give it a good wipe. There's some yellow on it. These sponges are for that same purpose. You can always take them out and rinse them, or they're dirty on one side. That's that same thing that'll help get the pigment off your brush. And then this little guy, this little palette, you see these little holes in the little pizza, it looks like a little pizza table. Goes right in there if you want, so that you have this space to work. I tend to just use this up here. So I have a drawing that I copied from our classmate Acorn. And let's say I'm just going to do a blue sky. I just want to do a blue sky. So I have some blue mixed up here. I'll put a little drop on it. I mixed it up yesterday. You squeeze it, move it around. Maybe I'll add a little more blue. Move it around. And then you just kind of go for it, you know? This is just on an index card. And you don't have to squeeze your water brush. Just you moving the brush itself actually sort of releases the water. Get a little bit more. Watercolor, you don't need to worry about it being perfectly smooth. There'll be some blotchy places. There'll be some places where the paper shows through. This kind of watercolor that we're doing is not traditional watercolor. It's sort of a go for it kind of watercolor, a mess around kind of watercolor. I'll bring this down here. I'm going to get the blue for me, even though I'm copying somebody else's drawing. Get that down there. And then, if you have the luxury, hit it with a hairdryer. That's going to speed things up for you so much. And also, once this pigment is dry, the next layer of pigment that you put on top of it is going to sit on top of it rather than blending in or bleeding. So I'm just going to take a little more blue, and maybe I'll just add some more blue in the corner. Just some lines here. So you can see how it's blue on blue, right? If this wasn't dry, you wouldn't see those lines. They just sink right into the paper. Good. All right. So now I'm going to get the blue off of there using my sponge. And I think I want to go with kind of a yellow, red, orange, I think is the technical term for yellow red. Get it on my brush. I think we'll do this animal. you know, when you do it, you don't have to do the whole thing solid. You can do it in little stripes like this. And I'm thinking I'm going to do some of the stripes of the pants, this color. And again, this is, you know, index card. It's not incredible paper, but somehow it works anyway. Maybe I'll give a little color here. Let's give this figure some color here. All right. I'm going to just let that dry on its own a little bit. And I'm thinking I want to go with a more of a, let's see, a kind of a gray-green. You know, when you're mixing up your colors, you shouldn't feel worried about getting them dirty or mixing them all up or trying to keep a neat palette. One of the best ways to learn how to do any of this stuff is to just make a mess at first. Same thing, just, you can act almost like a felt pen. Do the shoe in that same color. Her hair. All right. Now I'm looking at, I want to do, that's pretty dry now. I kind of want to do a layer of yellow right on top of that. So I'll take some of my yellow, find a little spot. You can take it, if you take it right out of the pan, it's usually a little too thick. It's better to just mix it up a little bit on the palette. Now I'm just going to paint over this entire animal so that you can see that layer of the, because it's dry, those first stripes that I put in, you can see how they're kind of showing through. And I think a yellow shirt. Maybe we'll continue with that yellow. These groovy pants. Right? Put a little tiny bit of yellow in the cloud. All right. And then if I want some color that's, you know, a little bit stronger, and at any time, you know, you can sort of feel it. I'm going to hit it with the hairdryer one more time. It really will save you so much time and heartache to have a hairdryer. I'm going to mix up a darker red. I kind of want to make some details here. I'm sure Acorn would do this in a completely different color palette. Just going to do this for now. Rosy cheeks. Maybe I'll give this guy a little bit of a rosy cheek too. Right? And maybe I'll put a little more, a second layer. So much of it is in layering, just a second layer. You don't have to repaint the whole thing. You can just put little marks, mess around. Something like it's weird because it looks messy, but when you finish, especially once it dries down, that messiness can look very intentional. Put a little bottom to that cloud. All right. So that's about it. I mean, there's really not a lot to this. Pretty quick, you have a little painting. And remember, think about layers when you're doing this. Wait, oh, I want to do the belly. And thank you, Acorn, for this drawing. That was so fun to copy. This was from the exercise we did where we had to draw ourselves first riding a wild animal and then have a wild animal riding us. This was Acorns. Right? There it is.